Hi, Julia Holian of Holian Associates. Yesterday I had a conversation with a woman who was really beating herself up. She had gone on an interview with her dream company for her dream job, and she feels like she blew it. And she gave me a call and said, I don't know what to do from here. I mean, this is what I've been striving for all of my career, and now I feel like I've lost my opportunity. How do I recover? So we had a long conversation, and I'm just going to break that down to a couple of things. The first thing I wanted to let her know is I said, look, you don't necessarily know that you've sabotaged or ruined your chances of getting it. Most of the time whenever you feel like you've missed the mark on something, the first thing you want to do is acknowledge it. And that's kind of in any situation, a real life situation with people in your life, in your family, and even in interviews. So I would, for her, take an opportunity to use the thank you note as a way of acknowledging or a place to acknowledge that maybe she missed the mark. So most thank you notes have three components. The first paragraph is a thank you for your time. The second is some kind of a reflection on the actual conversation that you had and something that maybe you enjoyed or you want to, or you look forward to doing in the future. And then the third is a closing, which says what your interest is in the job and that you can be reached at such and such times, and here's your availability to interview. So I recommended to her to take that middle part, that second paragraph, and use that as an opportunity to acknowledge that she doesn't think that she did very well. Now, for her, she felt like she, in particular, answered a question incorrectly. She felt like they were asking one thing and she actually said something else, and upon reflection, she feels like it was really off base. Now, for some people, that may not be the situation. You may just kind of feel like overall you didn't do a great job in the interview. It just didn't click. Maybe you were too nervous. But for her, my recommendation to her was to take that second paragraph and say, as I look back at our conversation and I think to one question in particular, I feel like I didn't answer this question, and she can acknowledge the question. I feel like I didn't answer that question the way I wanted to, or with enough information for you, or to let you know what you were actually looking for. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take this moment and explain myself. And the way I'm wording that is actually the way you can word it in the letter. Make it conversational. Show the personal side to it. Don't get too formal. Let them hear your voice. Let the person who's reading this read that you really care. And take that moment to explain what it is that you were trying to say. Don't go into a ton of detail, but just enough to show that you upon reflection, realize that there was something else that you should have done. And then explain or say that you're willing to, talk further about that and just kind of leave it at that. And then have your closing, and that's it for the thank you note. Now, if you're actually in the interview, so this is another thing I wanted to let her know, is I said, you don't know, you may still go on to the next step, but if you're in the interview, there are a few things, and I'm gonna come back to the same thing that I said before. Acknowledging the mistake or acknowledging that it didn't get answered the way you thought that it should is the most important thing. So if you're in an interview and you realize that maybe you're going down a path and answering the question and it's not exactly what they're looking for, stop yourself and show the humanity, show the humility, be honest, and let them know, as I'm thinking of this, I think maybe I'm answering a question answering your question in a way that is not exactly what you were looking for. So let me stop for a second and ask, am I going down a wrong direction, or is this the right direction? So clarify that. If you're going in the wrong direction, you might say, so let me kind of back up a second. I think what you were asking about was this, and here's my story, or here's my example, or here's what I would say to that, and then kind of start over again. Now, whenever you're in an interview, you probably know, because if you've seen my videos, you know this, you want to keep your questions or your answers to your questions pretty short. Try to keep them within a minute. So if you're going to go back and restate an answer, remember you still can't take more than a minute. And I don't mean a minute in combination with what you were first saying, but if you're going to start again, like the clock starts again, and so you've got to keep that to a minute. So use that time to acknowledge it. Now, you may find that you get past the fact, and in your head, you're thinking, oh, I really wish that question, 2 questions ago, I had answered better. What do I do? Well, when you get to the end of the interview, most of the time you're going to get asked, do you have any questions, or is there anything else you want to share with me? There's usually some kind of a polite sort of closing question at that moment. And that's when you can take the opportunity and say, I don't have any questions, or I do have questions, but what I'd really like to do is go back to when we were talking about, and then mention what you were talking about. And I'd like to re-clarify something in that, or I'd like to explain something that I don't think that I made very clear. So take that opportunity at the end of the interview to acknowledge. One of the things I've noticed in interviews is that most people are pretty human. They know that we make mistakes. They know that we're kind of struggling, we might be nervous. We feel like we've got a lot on the line. So that acknowledgement actually shows a lot. One of the things to realize about acknowledging that you've maybe made a mistake is that they're going to see that when you're a coworker of theirs and you make a mistake, that you have the capability of acknowledging that, of owning it, of putting it right out there on the table and letting people know. So think about it that way when you're thinking of recovering from some kind of an interview mistake, that how you recover from it is also demonstrating what kind of an employee, what kind of a business partner, what kind of a colleague you're going to be. And use that as a platform to show what kind of a person you are and how you'll resolve problems in the future, how you acknowledge and own your mistakes, and people will get to see the real you. So in some ways, it can actually be an opportunity. Anyway, I'm Julia Holian. I'm Holian Associates. If you've got any questions for us, or if we can help you in any way, let us know. We've got lots of videos that we're putting out for you, and hopefully this is helping you to get the job that you really want. So have a great day, everyone.